Before we get on topic, guys, at the very end of the video, after I explain what's going on and what's probably going to happen, I'm going to kind of explain what the whole point behind identity politics is and why does the Democratic Party lean so heavily on it, and also at the same time why it is that it's a house of cards and it's probably about to collapse soon. So make sure you guys stick around for the full video.
This is much bigger than the mayor of Chicago or Chicago Police Department. This is an effort to destroy our neighborhoods and silence our voices even further.
Well, I had a feeling that the situation would probably get a lot worse as the people of Chicago, or at least the people in this area, and it's probably a little bit more widespread and a little bit more rampant than you might would think, are starting to, let's just say, feel the brunt of their choices, as you guys are seeing here, with more people coming across the border since Title 42 ended. And you guys obviously saw that someone is starting to wake up and realize that a certain race or a certain group is being replaced by yet another one. I'm going to roll the rest of this. It's about 2 minutes long, 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Actually, it's a little bit less than that. I apologize. And then we're going to talk about it a little bit more on the other side, because I'm about to tell you what's going to happen as a result of this. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Us, now you want to overly compensate for people who never lived here before, and we need to be taken care of first and foremost before anything else happens here. Yes.
Why would any leader put our black communities already riddled with crime at further risk by placing unvetted non-taxpayers steps away from our seniors, our children, and our homes we've worked so hard on our own to secure?
We are at war, people. Our communities are at war. They are violating our communities, and we asking that we across the country, and we asking and we're demanding for office of Black America, or whatever you want to call it, to deal with issues like this.
I did get placed on a wait list, but I was told that the immigrants was taking priority. See, that's a story that a lot of people don't know, and it hurt me. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I understand we need to be humanitarian, but these people are, that my participants are third and fourth generation Chicagoans, born, bred, fed, and raised here. My grandmother, Mayrella Carrington, rest in peace, always said, Craig, charity starts at home first, and then it go abroad.
Politically, having over 500 people in our community would completely wipe out any interest we have.
Many of these migrants have been dumped in our neighborhoods without a plan in place to monitor and house them long term.
I'm not selling nothing. And I keep telling people,
that
you
big
don't have to
library coming
move.
to wake
If you
you up.
sell, they going to come in. If we don't sell, we got to stand strong and go.
That's right. We just getting started.
Many of you may know the Biden administration has allowed Title 42 to expire. It was a order that they had in place for medical reasons to not let certain people across the border without getting, checked for certain illnesses, the ones we can't talk about here online, without getting a stamp, which, by the way, YouTube said that they were going to remove that and keep people from being tagged, talking about the 91C. I got to say it very, very funny. They said they were going to remove the tag, but they actually still put the disinformation tag on the video. I have no idea why they do that, but still, though, it's as I said before, you got yourself a border crisis, and obviously the people of Chicago are feeling it. Now, really quick, some people are going to say it's Greg Abbott sending these people to Chicago and sending these people to New York, or DeSantis or whatever is busting these people up here. But I want you to know something right now. These states' governors can say no. They can say no and they can send them back. So do you think maybe it's possible that certain people are taking advantage of the, sanctuary city thing? And by sanctuary city, I'm not talking about the migrants. I'm talking about the mayors. You see, the mayors, they run on this whole policy of we're a sanctuary city, so that way they can find a way to get these illegals coming over. They want to get them the opportunity to vote in statewide elections. Normally, you can't vote in federal. And by the way, some of these blue states have got much, much more strict voter ID laws than some states and some red states and some redder areas, more purple areas. Don't get me started on that because, once again, it's hypocrisy, and therefore we have to talk about this all the time because, yeah, the same people who accuse people like me of being racist or bigoted for wanting voter ID have strict voter ID laws themselves. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is that things are about to get hot. Now, guys, I discussed in this video here, I showed you guys what it was, and by the way, I also did another version of that video on short timer prepping where I kind of gave the predictions of crime and chaos and the fact that the 1968 Democratic National Convention, which by the way was held in Chicago, may get a redo in 2024, which by the way is being held in Chicago. And of course, Joe Biden is already starting his white supremacy stick.
Stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
More proof to me that we're going to be hearing the whole woke platform, the whole equity agenda, which, by the way, equity means equal outcome, not equal opportunity. It means that regardless of what kind of effort you put into society, you're going to get the equal result of everyone else. It's called cultural Marxism. Trust me, I think an entire group of people who live in Chicago are starting to see that this whole thing that they voted for is not exactly working out. And don't worry, I will be telling you the result of what is going to happen here. So, Greg Abbott has been sending these people to these cities, and of course the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, and of course the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, who's actually more woke than Lori Lightfoot. They have decided to let these people in. The reason why is because they believe if they let these people in, next thing you know, it's just going to become more votes. They can vote in statewide elections and keep the power or give them power, and then maybe someday they might can get amnesty passed, and everybody who's coming across the border illegally will suddenly become an American citizen, which, by the way, is a very, very risky thing to do because you're not going to get amnesty or some type of immigration reform unless you get 60 votes. And based upon the 2024 Senate map, which, by the way, heavily favors Republicans, at best, Democrats are probably looking at losing anywhere between 3 to 4 seats. Now, somebody's going to say a lot of that is dependent on the candidate. I think if DeSantis is a Republican candidate, Republicans will net possibly 3 seats, whereas Trump is the candidate because of the overall higher turnout. Even if he does not win the election, he'll get 6. So more than likely, you probably won't see any immigration reform ever happen. Not to mention the fact that you do run the risk of somebody doing amnesty by executive order, but then again, though, it also never stays in place. It's typically only there for about 60 to 100 days, and anything that's signed into law by executive order is not exactly law because it's got to go through the Supreme Court, and more times than not, it normally gets shut down. The Obama administration, they did it all the time. They signed executive orders, it got struck down. Trump signed executive orders, and they got struck down by lower courts. For example, the bump stock ban, he signed it, got struck down by a court in South Dakota. Now, here's the thing. This is going to be an absolute nightmare. It's going to be an absolute quagmire, especially for those of black skin. Black people are not going to like this. They're already waking up to this. In that previous video that I did, one lady came on out and told the full truth. And she came out and she said that these Hispanics don't like black people. These black people don't really like Hispanics in that area, especially if you're coming over and you can't speak English. I know I could get in trouble for this on YouTube. I'm just giving basic, actual, honest-to-God assessment here. If you have nobody in the area speaking the same language, it could lead to problems. Also, not to mention the fact that oftentimes they take cheaper jobs, and therefore it kind of puts black people outside the job market, which means that people become desperate, and as a result of this, crime could pick up. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, Chicago, they don't have a gun problem because they got massive amounts of gun control. Chicago has got some of the worst gun crime, some of the worst murder crime in the country. They have got some of the worst crime in the country, period. So let me tell you what's going to happen. This administration and the Johnson administration going into Chicago is going to pander very, very heavily by saying we're not going to remove these people. We're not going to send these people back. We're not going to send these people anywhere else. Because if you do send these people back to Texas, then Greg Abbott's just going to redirect them to California, and then it's just going to be redirected to New York, and then they're going to find a way to get redirected to Washington State or Oregon, somewhere like that, which, by the way, I'm really, it's kind of weird that Oregon didn't receive anybody. But still, At the same time, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's probably going to lead to a lot of incidents. And by incidents, I mean crime. Crime is probably going to get much, much more rampant, and you could very, very well see a race war occur between these two. And of course, they're going to be screaming, because the hope is that these two can work together to go up against the white man. The problem is that these two don't exactly like one another. They're not exactly, they're not exactly cool with one another. They're not happy with one another at all. They don't like each other. So more than likely what's going to happen is that they're not going to work together. They're probably going to work against one another. Now, what happens politically? And don't worry, we'll get to the other half, the other side, where I explain identity politics here in a second, because it was designed to be last. What happens is that one side completely disengages while the other side eventually takes over. And by the way, speaking of the Republicans, and by the way, they've also, you probably think to yourself, they would never vote Republican. They're just here to vote Democrat, which is very likely. However, a lot of Hispanics that are here in the United States have been angling themselves towards the GOP. GOP actually improved in 2022 and 2020 when it came to Hispanics. You see, I think this plan the Democrats have is going to completely blow up in their face, and I believe it's going to completely blow up in their face right around the time of the 2024 Democratic National Convention, which is being held in Chicago. Kind of a redo of 1968. That's why I brought it up, because you're probably going to see riots, because, let's face it, the Democratic Party is all about one thing, identity politics, which I'll explain here in a second. But you got to understand something really quick. When you've got two groups of people pit against one another, or put in a situation where they're probably not going to get along or coexist, and now you want one group to have the right to vote when, quite frankly, they're not even here legally, that's going to lead to a lot of problems. It's going to lead to a lot of jealousy. It's going to lead to a lot of crime. It's going to lead to a lot of incidents. Like I said, could very, very well lead to a race war. You see, this entire plan of bringing immigrants across the border, I think, is just blown up in the Democratic Party's face. They played the woke card, and obviously, as you guys can see, the constituents that they initially played the woke card for are not happy about the end result. Sanctuary cities are a disaster. Kate's Law should have been signed a long time ago, and I think it, quite frankly, should have been stronger than what the hell they tried to pitch. Just figure I'd throw that out there, guys, that we're about to see some mess. We're about to see maybe the crap just may hit the fan. Now, let me go ahead and explain identity politics for you guys, and we'll go ahead and close things out. The hope is to get these groups to assimilate around a message. However, at the rate we're going, it doesn't look like assimilation is going to occur. It took me a while to figure it out, but sometime right around 2013, 2014 time frame, I began to start reading into identity politics. And, of course, it's Marxist. It's Marxism in a lot of ways. It kind of is, but like I said, we'll do bigger videos on that in the future. And it hit me that there's got to be a reason why it is that the Democratic Party always offers such free stuff or whatnot to different races. They offer college tuition to white liberal suburbanites. Of course, they offer more handouts to those who are poor, typically those who are black. Same thing with whites, because there are some poor whites that vote Democrat too. And also the same thing when it comes to Hispanics. By the way, I live in an area that's pretty well diverse, and we all get along one another very, very well. We don't talk politics or get into it. And even if you did, most people just kind of view it as like an unpleasant thing. So we just don't discuss it. But the thing is this right here. Democratic Party panders to each identity group. I'm going to use the LGBTQ community, for example. By the way, I'm not against the community at all. I am against the wokeness in the schools and whatnot. And I'm against the wokeness in Hollywood and the whole equity agenda and the tokenism. But still, here's the deal. The L stands for lesbian, G stands for gay as in gay men, the B stands for bi, and of course T stands for trans. So what they do is they try to pander to each individual group. The problem is that each individual letter in this group is what we call a single issue voter. Okay, so you promise them stuff, and you what you're basically doing is you're trying to hold all four together on single issue topics. Same thing with African Americans, the same thing with Hispanics and other minorities. Basically, what they're doing is that they're basically handing out. This is like I said, anytime you see Democrats run, you see them pander a lot more, where Republicans run more on their ideology. Republican voters have to actually prove their ideology to get the nomination. Democrats, on the other hand, don't have to do that. All they have to do is just offer something to somebody, and boom, they got that group. Boom, they got this person. Boom, they got that there. That's all they have to do. That's the nature of identity politics, is to pander to each individual group. And at some point in time, it's going to fall on its head. It's going to fall apart, because When you start putting people of different groups and they don't assimilate, after a while, what's going to happen is that they're probably going to start to war and fight with one another. That's more than likely what's probably going to occur as a result of this. That's why I keep bringing up the 2024 election, because Chicago's kind of got a history for this. And to go on top of this is, don't you guys find it very weird that you have a Kennedy primarying Biden right now? His daddy, of course, 1968. I don't think I have to mention that. YouTube will probably remove this channel if I go into too much detail. But the fact of the matter is, this was a house of cards that the Democratic Party wanted and built. And it looks like it's about to crash and tumble down. But don't worry, we'll be doing more videos on this in the future. Guys, John Claymore, if you like this content, please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.